another episode of the Hood Health Report. Today we are being joined by my wonderful intern, research consultant, Celine.
Hello.
Everybody welcome Celine.
Hey guys, I'm Celine and I'll be joining KB today on the episode.
Yes, so to get us started, we're going to get Celine to tell us a little bit about herself, ask her some this or that questions, find out what type of person she is, right? All right, so starting off, first this or that question. Jordans or Chucks?
Ooh, Jordans.
Jordans? Why?
I have a sneaker collection and I have more of them than Chucks. I also prefer I just go off of what I like. So even today, I don't even have on Jordans. I have on 550s. But if you are a shoe person, you just know. I'm gonna go and look and be like, ooh, yeah, my 4s. Yeah, I'm pulling those out every time.
This sounds like IT to me. 515s and 4s and
people will know. They'll know. If you're a shoe person, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about.
I've heard the words before. Yeah. I just they don't connect to anything.
4s are definitely my favorite.
Is it 4s? I hear people talk about Jordan 4s. It doesn't bring a picture in my head, but all right. Next, this or that. Coffee or tea?
Ooh, this is a hard one because I like both. I drink tea every day, so I'm gonna go with tea. I have tea every day. There's not a day that I probably miss without getting some tea, so I'm gonna go tea.
And what's your go-to tea?
I like Arnold Palmer, so does that count? Because it is tea, because it's tea and lemonade mixed together, so that's what I'm going to say. But I really like passion fruit tea. That's really good too.
Okay. Next, this or that question. PWI or HBCU?
So I went to a PWI, so of course I'm gonna rep my school. So yes, PWI. I did want to go to HBCU, it just didn't happen. So I do feel like you need a good mix though. So I didn't go to a PWI and it was just, no culture. I went to a PWI in a city where there was enough black people that you interacted. You had a good time, and I made sure that I was involved with everything I can get involved with. So yeah.
Okay. So while we're talking about school, go ahead and give us some of your background and why you're qualified to be here talking these health topics.
All right. So I am a recent graduate with my master's in public health, so I have a background in it. I've done research, and so that's the reason why I'm here.
And what are we going to talk about today?
So today's topic is about the water crisis. If you didn't know, we're running out of water at a very outrageous rate, so we're going to get all into that today.
And this topic, it started off as okay, we see this in the news, we see that, and then it just started becoming so real that, this is happening directly to us, or we can directly see how it's affecting our ecosystem. So this was definitely a conversation that is important to have. So
it needed to be had. I'm gonna hop right in. Like I said, this episode is gonna be focusing on the water crisis. So the first article clip that we have is reported from the CNN, and it's titled, "The Mississippi River Drought Will Impact Your Grocery Bill. Here's How." And we have a couple of clips that we want you to listen to, and you just tell us what you think, and I'm going to tell you what I think. KB's going to tell you what she thinks. So we're going to go into that.
And these water levels are so low, creating such a catastrophic shipping crisis, that this is going to affect your grocery bill. The price of moving a bushel of soybeans went up 300%, and there are thousands of barges full of food, and all they can do is just wait and pray for rain.
After listening to that clip, I definitely think this is going to impact, grocery prices, transportation. If there is no transportation being able to be done through water, then they're definitely gonna have to transport it using other forms of transportation, such as 18-wheelers and trains, which aren't good for our ecosystem. It's gonna cause fuel transmissions to rise and other things. So it's gonna all affect the prices of grocery. It's gonna create a cycle where that grocery price just continues to rise. And that's not something I enjoy. I don't wanna go to the grocery store and spend $8, $9 on eggs, but that's what it's looking like right now. You have anything to say?
And the grocery prices are already increasing because of these ecosystem failures. And let me tell you, shopping for a family of 3 for groceries, it's not pretty. So definitely do not want to see those prices raised. Please, rain.
Yes.
Come here today and
Yes.
for a few days after. And we have been getting quite a bit of rain lately, so I guess I can be grateful for the rain because it is balancing out the ecosystem, and that is desperately what we need these days.
Yes, I agree completely. I'm going to start with the second article, and it was covered by The Conversation, and it was titled "The Record Low Levels on the Mississippi River in 2022 show how climate change is altering large rivers." So that article, it states that when droughts develop, water levels fall, making the river navigation harder and more expensive. Basically, what this means to me is, while rain is a great thing, it's not like constant. Sometimes when we go through a drought and you have like a whole bunch of water, it doesn't necessarily help because it's all coming at one time, which can create other issues for farmers and stuff of that nature, which also will affect our grocery prices and stuff of that nature. The article also mentions that the Mississippi River fell to a low in Memphis, Tennessee, which is our hometown, and the barges weren't able to float through. So when a barge isn't able to float through, then they're not able to transport any goods alongside the Mississippi River, which can be catastrophic. So yeah, that happened in 2022. So last year, that was something that happened for the first time in a long time. And it hasn't fell this low. Well, that record for it falling that low was it fell 20 feet in over 11 weeks. So that's a dramatic drop in the water. So the next article is going to be titled "Why the Mississippi River is Drying Up." The article states that the the Mississippi River water levels are the lowest that they've been in a decade, which I basically was saying earlier in our earlier article. The river is the second largest in the U.S. and provides drinking water to around 20 million people. But as the water levels continue to decline, we're going to see some issues, with that. The article also states it's a primary mode for transportation, and it carries about 500 million tons of cargo every year. So with that huge decline in the amount of water that's in the Mississippi River, it's hard to transport goods, which ultimately, like I've been saying, it's going to affect the price of groceries. It's only going to affect the price of how much we pay to transport goods with other systems that we have to use, and it's going to also work against the ecosystem, which also will create more issues because we're letting off transmissions into the air and stuff of that nature. This is also being considered a mega drought. Luckily, we are getting some rain now, but usually around the mid-October to December time, it's really dry and they're not getting enough water to be able to have the barges float through the Mississippi. Since the river is the second biggest river, it has the population that depends on it so much. A drought like this can cause huge issues, for people along the side of the river banks, and then also people who just need it in more rural areas as well. I'm gonna go on to the next topic or flashcard, and it's still going on talking about the Mississippi River and why it's drying up. So it's a historic drought, and it's causing what's causing the Mississippi River to dry up. This article basically goes into why the Mississippi is used as a option for transporting goods. Barges are a lot cheaper and more economically friendly to use than trucks and railroads. And however, the low water levels are making it difficult for boats to clear some parts of the river. And they're having to start using the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to make basically channels for the barges to go through. And so for me, when I hear something like this, it just means to me that since the U.S. Army Corps is getting involved, we know that it's a huge problem. The biggest way that we can, get the problem solved is rain, but since we can't control when it rains, it's good that they're putting some effort into making sure that those barges are able to run through the Mississippi. It's going to take a lot of time and resources to keep the water moving in those levels so that the barges can pass through, and that's going to continue to affect the prices of, you know, food as well. You got anything to add?
So the shocking part that I did read about in these couple of articles was that the water had gotten so low that they were finding like ship remains and things like that, and that opened up a whole can of worms in my head because I immediately thought about Lake Lanier. Have you heard of Lake Lanier in Georgia? Like right outside of Atlanta. So if you haven't heard of Lake Lanier, it's this man-made lake that they basically flooded out this black neighborhood because the people were unwilling to move because of course they weren't paying them what their land was worth to make this lake. So instead of, you know, knocking things down and demolishing the town, it's all as it was underwater. And if you've ever been out there, if you've ever heard these stories, there's just always some mysterious accidents or deaths and people go missing in the lake, and that lake drying up would be terrifying. That would be terrifying, just to see a town, a whole town that was, you know, undisturbed and all of these bodies and things. So that was the first thing my mind went to when I saw them talking about recovering the shipwreck. I think it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana that they did. So yeah, it'll definitely be some terrifying things to find if these lakes and rivers and bodies of water start to dry up.
Yeah, a lot of remains that are unknown out there that we don't know what it is down there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they find. So we've been talking a lot about the Mississippi River, and there are other crises across the United States that I feel like also deserve a chance to be highlighted. One of which is a topic that most people do know about is the Flint water crisis. So it's very problematic, and I'm just going to start with why I feel like the Flint water crisis, you know, is something that needs to be covered. So I'm just going to hop right into it. The article that I'm going to be reading from is called "Bottled Water Dries Up in Flint as Water Crisis Fallout Continues into the New Year." So, for more than 8 years after the Flint water crisis was triggered, bottled water distribution has ended at help centers in Flint, with the fallout from a man-made emergency continues in 2023. So, what this article was discussing was how Flint water crisis has been going on for, I want to say since 2014, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was 2014 when they tried to switch the water system, and then they went back in the year following because they realized that it wasn't good, but after that it was so much, you know, that had happened, it's still not very drinkable. It's not drinkable. They were underneath the funding to receive water, bottled water, but that ended this year in January. So they're no longer getting bottled water to drink in many of the communities in Flint. And for me, this is very heartbreaking news because it's been almost a decade, and they were receiving funds up into 2022 through Blue Trident brands. And I personally have strong feelings that if you are funding something and the problem isn't fixed, then terminating it does the people no good, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. If you have an opinion, we would love to hear it, but that's how I feel about it. Do you have any thoughts about that?
That was definitely one of the notes that I made, is how can we stop servicing these people with providing them clean water if we know that all of the pipes aren't fixed yet, so they don't have access to drinkable water. So yeah, that was wild to me that they were stopping that before everything was fixed.
Yeah, it's very disheartening to me. If you would like to know more about the Flint water crisis and the initiatives that Michigan is taking, you can check out the www.michigan.gov/AG initiatives at Flint water crisis. Hopefully I said that completely correct. If not, we're gonna put like a little thingy right across here so y'all can go click on it, because I do want y'all to look at it. They do have where you can check everything out that they're doing. I just feel like more should be being done. That's honestly gonna be my thought from here until it's fixed completely.
I think they said they have like 5 to 7% of lead pipes still affected that they need to fix, but That's just the numbers they're reporting to us that are like the untouched pipes. So it's probably pipes that are still being worked on, that are continuing to be fixed. And another thing that really boiled my veins about this article was they mentioned that they were going to put money into repairing the neighborhoods to where they was digging up the pipes, and they never repaired that ground. They just left it just visibly an eyesore. So now they have to go back into those neighborhoods to actually clean it up, and not just, the property value is already way down because of the water. So why just add insult to injury, leaving their place visibly just unkempt? So that was another thing that stuck out in the article to me, because it's so many little pieces of just inhumaneness in there that they try to just walk over like, oh, so we're gonna make sure we give them money to do that now. But this has been going on for years, and you just left the grounds dug up in all these black neighborhoods. So that was definitely something that stuck out to me in that article.
Yeah. The next water issue I want to talk about is the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. I have a couple articles on that. The first one is the Jackson water crisis flows from centuries of poverty, neglect, and racism. And without even reading the article, that title should just let you know exactly what you need to know about the article, but I'm still going to give you a little insight about the article itself. So, in August, more than 100,000 people went without water to drink, wash, or flush their toilets. It was the latest in a series of water-related problems plaguing the state's biggest city. They include frequent line breaks, shutoffs, boiled water notices, and ongoing exposures to toxic lead and harmful bacteria. Jackson consistently has been in violation of safe drinking water standards since at least 2018, and has been under federal order since 2020 to fix a host of issues impacting the water system. So that's just part of the article. When you read the entirety of the article, it does allow back and forth with finger pointing, but no real results being made. And for me, because I visited Jackson. Have you ever been to Jackson? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have HBCUs. Am I okay? Making sure it's in Jackson State. It's Jackson. Yeah. It's been a minute since I've been there, but when I went, you know that it is a community with a lot of black people, and I feel like, with that being said, since that is the area, they're not taking the issue seriously at all. They point fingers from one person to the next person. They try to say that, like, oh, it's the mayor's fault, or oh, it's the federal government. How do we need to get this fixed? But nobody's really doing anything to fix it. I feel like if it was a different community, then they would have no problem fixing the issues. And this is a little off, but can I say it? Okay. I was actually, it's not even in my little notes. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday because they were just talking about Jackson, Mississippi in general, and they were saying, what were they saying? They were saying that the city is actually trying to make a separate district, and the district is going to be more so focused towards, white people and people that aren't black. They want to, basically want to separate the city of Jackson. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find the article and I'm going to let you read it. Mm-hmm. But when I saw that, it just brought me back to this, because I was like, oh, I'm going to be covering that tomorrow. Let me just, state it while I'm talking and everything. But yeah, it just boils down to poverty, neglect, racism. The officials don't take it seriously. They think, I really don't know how they think it would be get fixed if they don't fix it. Yeah, it's very disheartening. I also included on here the NAACP is still taking donations to help with Jackson, Mississippi water crisis. And again, I'm going to put the little thing down here so that way you can click it if you would like, or look it up. And if you want to donate or learn more about ways that you can get involved, then that would be a way that you could do that. You have anything that you want to add? No. Okay. If y'all have something y'all want to add, y'all can leave it in the comments. I also wanted to cover some West Coast water shortages. We did like the East Coast, we did the Mid-South, we did like a little bit of everywhere. So I feel like it's only right to include them in it too. So we talked heavily about, like I said, the East and Mid-South troubles with water. And now I'm just gonna mention some stuff about the California and Arizona type areas. So the first article was reported by CNN and it's called The Brink of Disaster. 2023 is a critical year for the Colorado River as the reservoirs sink towards dead pool in states. So this article basically starts off by saying how the Colorado River affects more than 40 million people who depend on it for water supply as a basin. And it's been plagued by decades of overuse and human-caused climate change, and demands for river water has vastly outpaced its supply. In 2023, the federal and state officials must find a way to keep as much as 4 million acre-feet of water in the Lake Mead and Powell, 30% of the Colorado River. So, it's interesting with, this river itself because so many states depend on it, and I have some clips that I want to play too because I feel like that kind of will help people understand, why this is such a big deal. But another article before we get to the clips, it was called "The Southwest is Bone Dry. Now a key water source is at risk." And basically it's just explaining like climate change is worsening the drought that has driven water stores to dangerous lows. And now the federal government is telling states that they need to drastically cut back. And the clips that we're gonna play.
So much of the vegetables and even hay for cows around the country, if California were to be meaningfully cut, you would have a food crisis.
Right.
But their main argument is on the law. And everyone I talked to for the story said that on the law itself, California is mostly right. That's not the dispute. The dispute is how much will that argument count for against Arizona's case?
So what's Arizona's case?
Arizona makes a very different argument. And the negotiators I spoke with conceded that their legal argument isn't that strong. But they say they've got different arguments. The main one is what's practical and what's fair. They say that most of the farmers in Arizona who rely on this water have already suffered and lost a lot of that water. It really comes down to this point to cities, Phoenix and Tucson, and also tribes. A significant number of Native American tribes are along these canals in Arizona, and they would be hurt too. So Arizona says, sure, on the law, maybe you can cut us first, but in reality, it makes no sense. You would be causing significant health harms to these cities, and the government would be violating its obligations to tribes that have been promised this water through treaties. So Arizona's argument boils down to, don't just look at the law, look at what makes sense. And if you look at what makes sense, you cannot cut us that deep because people would suffer too much.
I mean, Arizona is basically saying to California, we're talking about people and drinking water and being able to bathe. I mean, this is more important than some cabbages or some almond farms.
Yeah, and it's a really compelling argument. But at the same time, California has what seems like a compelling argument, which is, was it a good idea in the first place for Arizona to build these cities in the desert that rely on a supply of water whose legal foundation was never that solid, right?
Yeah.
And I think the intractability of these negotiations really comes down to the fact that both sides have good arguments, but they're good in different ways. And nobody is quite willing to agree to a deal that imposes really severe harm on their own constituents. And I don't know how you get around that dynamic.
So what are they going to do? What happens now?
So the federal government, having failed last summer to get states to make a deal, tried again. And in November, they said to the states, all right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to start a process to study the effects of significantly cutting water use from the Colorado. And we want you to give us a plan that we can study. Because if we don't have a plan from you, we'll just make a plan of our own, and that'll be what happens. Because there's a ticking clock here. The government has to have a plan in place that's been studied by the summer, which is when evaporation is highest, temperatures are highest.
It would be impossible for us to like stop using all this water. So they're basically going back and forth and not making a decision because each one of them feels as though they need the water more, or that it would be inhumane to cut the water from either party. So what do you think?
The part that stuck out with this one for me is state negotiators are themselves waiting for the feds to decide how it will dole out $4 billion in drought relief money, which the Biden administration funded from the Inflation Reduction Act to essentially pay people to not use water. So, it's very Twilight Zone-y, like paying people to not use their water. And especially with California, it seems like that's just a very wasteful state when it comes to water, as far as, I'll just say it, all of the stupid little, baby reveals that end up setting the woods on fire, setting acres of land on fire, as if brush fires already don't come easily to this land. So it's like California, of course, uses up so much water. And what really stuck out with me about this West Coast water scarcity is I was in Arizona this past December, and we did a little ATV hike up a mountain and learn about different scenery, and turn to your left, there's this, turn to your right, there's this. And we saw one of these lakes, and as the article states, it was just about dried up. And they have these plans to go on and how they're, gonna lessen out the water, gonna ration out the water to the people who live in these communities. But then the guy who was given the torch told us and showed us where they are actually building a factory on one of the lakes that is already set to run out of water in 2 to 3 years. So it just shows you that, they really don't care. The water's already running out. It's like, let's put this factory there that uses this much water in 2 months, So, like I said, it'll be very interesting to follow up on the water scarcity in a couple of years and just see where we really are with that, what interventions have been made, if they, do some type of water pressure cutback. I know when I was in college, that's HBCU for you, y'all. When I was in college and we were going through a drought, they literally cut our water pressure back, and they took away a lot of the things that used a lot of water. So for instance, in the cafeteria, where you would have your tray and put your drink, your dessert, your food, everything on your tray and walk into your table, we didn't have trays that year because the trays took too much water to clean. So just imagine us trying to get all of our food and drinks and everything to the table. Like I mentioned, the water pressure on our showers, they decreased the water pressure greatly because we were in a serious drought. So it'll be interesting to see if city governments or state officials or whoever implements these type of strategies in the common neighborhoods.
Yeah, what's also interesting is from the articles I read, they were already supposed to have come to an agreement, and they just keep pushing it back. Are you gonna push it back until it's Deadpool for real? That's scary to certain people. Imagine not having any water. There's no water. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do without water? Yeah, you need it. There's no other way to survive. You're gonna need the water at some point. So the fact that they're saying that they're doing everything possible to figure out how they're gonna do this. But then when it comes to dates and deadlines, it's we'll just wait a little bit longer. Yeah, we'll just see how long we can put this off until we can't put it off anymore. And I think that creates more issues in the long run that could have been solved up beforehand. Yeah.
And it just really takes me back to, we are spoiled as Americans. The amount of water that we use in our everyday lives, it's insane. So I spent a summer in Haiti, and we did not have running water. And it really made me think about, dang, like you would have rinsed your hands right now to do this, where you use a wipe, or you would have used water to do this. We literally had to go to the well, pump the water from the well, and that was the water we used to bathe in. We had like toilet structures, but they didn't have running water, so we had to pour over to flush it. We had clean water to eat and cook with, of course, but as far as everything else, we had to go pump well water. So it definitely humbled me, and it definitely made me aware of, okay, well, if I'm washing my hair in the shower, let me turn the shower off while I shampoo. Let me turn the shower off while I detangle my hair. So it's definitely these type of things that we could implement to start working on our water usage before, the city just cuts off water at a certain time. Who knows what their solutions will be. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of months, years, how this plays out. Hopefully you get it together. I don't know about that. It's a scary thought to think, like, waking up and being like, well, there's no water.
There's no water. Gotta take a baby wipe bath.
But sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, as Americans, maybe that's what we need. Like, maybe that wake everybody up. I don't know.
That's what other cultures think.
Maybe that would help us all out, because you like, oh wow, we had it good.
We had it real good. Taking 2-3 showers a day.
That's how my grandma is. She used to tell you, hey, you don't want to eat it, don't eat it, okay? Now look at me hungry. But I think it feels scary to maybe that's what we need. I don't know.
America needs care.
It's a little bit.
No water for a week.
Right. Oh, I don't know. I'd be sad. I'd rather cry. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next and final article for this week. And I wanted to end it on like a good, like a more positive, because we just talked about Deadpool. We just talked about not having water at all. So I thought it would be good to like highlight something that the city did recently. So in Memphis in December, we had a water bowl advisory. Yeah, we had a water bowl advisory, and Kroger ended up doing a surprise donation and gave out 40,000 bottles of water to aid Shelby County during that water crisis, which was actually very, thoughtful. And I just want to include that because there's things like that shows that like the community can come together. Like that would be great if other communities could like see that impact and possibly, try to do it. I think about places like Flint, they need water, Jackson needs water. So the fact that like Shelby County was able to do that, I feel like that was really sweet of them. You got anything to say about it?
No, that was great.
Okay. So that concludes what I have to say. My name is Celine again. It was fun to be on.
On the other side.
On the other side of the camera. I was really like nervous, so let me know how I did, guys.
You did great. So that concludes another episode of the Hood Health Report. Follow our Instagram at Hood Health Report, as well as Facebook Hood Health Report and Twitter Hood Health Pod. Thanks and bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.